Welcome to Seize the Mains Daily Answer Writing by Malhotra's IS Academy. I'm Surbhi Sardana and I'm taking this lecture series on Civil Services Mains Preparation Answer Writing for UPSC and State Civil Services. If you are new to this initiative, you can download the timetable for this initiative from the link in the description below. Also, you can download the compilation of the entire season 1, lecture 1 to 28 with all the questions and answers that have been discussed in this series from the link in the description below. Starting with today's lecture, our topic for today, for day 36, is from GS paper 4 and it is a very simple topic. It's about probity in governance. So here today we are taking only the probity in governance part, the definition of probity. We are not including the RTI or Citizens Charter part of the syllabus. It's only about, it will only revolve around the definition and basic concepts of probity. And the question also that we'll be addressing today would be very simple. Let's see what it is. So it is about what do you understand by probity in governance, what are the challenges to practicing probity in present times. Answer in 150 words for 10 marks and send your answers by 9 PM of 31st March, that is within the next 24 hours at the given email ID. So talking about the introduction for this answer, the question straight away does ask you that what do you understand by probity in governance. So since this is a 150 words answer, we'll not beat around the bush, we'll directly answer what has been asked in the question, which is the definition of probity and the relevance of probity in governance. Then we'll move on to addressing the second part of this question, which talks about challenges to practicing probity in present time. So you don't have to talk about bookish challenges, you have to talk about challenges which are according to you, which challenges which you see in newspapers or read in magazines, that what are the present challenges to public servants or anybody working for the public, for example doctors or professors or civil servants. So anybody who's working in the public, what are the challenges that they face in practicing probity. So let's start with the definition of probity. This definition is the dictionary definition of probity and it is the simplest form. Probity is a high standard of correct moral behavior. So this is very simple, that whatever ethical values you have, integrity, honesty, moral values, so practicing that high standard of moral values or correct moral behavior is probity. So it is adherence to the highest principles and ideals. This is an alternative few words definition. And let's see what is the relevance of probity in governance. Probity in governance is defined as adherence to ethical and moral values like honesty, integrity, rectitude, uprightness, etc. It is the presence of integrity in procedures and integrity in terms of ethics. So whatever, as a public servant, the procedures that you are following, the professional measures that you are taking, or whatever you are doing in your professional capacity, and in are you doing with that with an ethical background in mind. So that is probity. Presence of procedural integrity with high standards of ethical behavior. It is vital for executing the governance system and socio-economic development. So this is an additional line, you can talk about this or entirely skip it because this is a 150 words answer. So here we talk about how probity helps in governance, or what is the role that probity plays in governance. So probity in governance preserves public confidence in government processes. You know, when people know that there is somebody to listen to their complaints, so people have more confidence in public offices. They tend to go to the public offices with their grievances again and again. It maintains integrity in public services. People with probity act as a role model for others. It ensures accountability in governance and ensures compliance with processes. Whatever the legal and professional processes are there for an organization, it ensures compliance for them. And it seeks to avoid the potential for misconduct, fraud and corruption. So this is the broad relevance of probity in governance. You can add your own data, your own points, what you think, how probity helps in governance. So probity is basically the compilation of all the moral and ethical values put into practice. So this is a very significant diagram for probity. Make sure that you are using such diagrams or this particular diagram in your ethics paper. You don't have to make like full circles, it would get very tough for you in the mains exam, but you can have an alternative diagram. This is our go-to diagram for the exam because this is very easy to draw. So make a diagram like this and add all these values when you're talking about probity or whenever a direct question on probity has been asked in the exam. So moving on to the next part, we'll use a linkage point to see what are the challenges to probity. So what is the linkage point here? The following are some of the contemporary challenges to practicing probity in present times. As you can see, this linkage point has introduced our body paragraph to the examiner. So now this answer has taken an organized approach, and now we can move on to describe all the points, all the challenges in the body paragraph. So the first problem that we see before in front of the public servants before they can act with probity is colonial legacy. Colonial legacy, like most of our organizations or most of the systems that we follow in offices, for example, everything needs to be in black and white, everything has to be in paper. So things like that, they are a colonial legacy. This is how Britishers used to run the administration, and many of the functions have not changed with time, many of the processes have not changed with time, and there is not a lot of innovation that has come with the passage of time. So colonial legacy is the first challenge. We would be discussing a lot of challenges, at least 20 challenges here. So what you can do is either make sections for your challenges. For example, if there are 20 challenges, you can sort them out in terms of personal, professional, things like that, and give like 5 for each section. Or you can just list down 20 challenges in very short explanations, give very short explanations for them. Either way, it's the best approach. The second one is asymmetry of power. People who are motivated to bring innovation do not have enough power or are juniors in the seniority ladder, and people who do not have a lot of motivation have most of the power. So that is asymmetry of power. The third one is psychological fear. Fear of being targeted for taking a right stand. You know, when you are a public servant, many of your actions will not be understood by media, by people, by your seniors, by politicians, for example. So there would be all kinds of repercussions. You might be targeted one or the other time. There have been many officers which have been targeted in the past for their actions based on practicing probity. So that generates, these people act as an example, and this generates a psychological fear in other officers or in other public servants. So this is a problem, that instead of acting role models, many a times we see such examples which generate psychological fear in the minds of public servants. There is a fear of social backlash. For example, there is, when in a residential area where houses are built, many people tend to occupy more land, more than what has been passed in the map or in their legal boundary. So they tend to occupy more and more area, especially in smaller towns. This is a rampant phenomena. So whenever a new officer is posted, what he orders bringing down all these structures or the ramps that people build illegally outside their houses. So many a times a lot of strikes and protests happen. Many a times new officers bring down a lot of illegal shops and illegal businesses that are being carried out in a particular area. So they suffer a lot of social backlash, that such officers are not accepted in a positive light by the public, and they receive this backlash. The job is less rewarding because, having a fixed salary, a fixed time for promotion, not getting enough benefits based on performance, not getting performance based benefits are some of the hurdles. Because when you take some revolutionary step, or when you act with a proper ethical uprightness, there is always, as a human nature, there is always a sense of receiving appreciation in return or receiving results in return, and that does not happen, which demotivates the individual. So the job becomes less rewarding. Sixth one, as we talked about earlier, which we related with psychological fear, that there are no role models. Any seniors who have done this and received positive outcomes for it are not available, or anyone else who can act as a role model, everyone following the same old path. So moving on to the next part, there is conflict of interest of different parties involved. There would be capitalists, businessmen, politicians, the officers, the public. So conflict of interest creates a lot of dilemmas, ethical dilemmas, personal dilemmas and professional dilemmas. You know, this part of the syllabus will be asked, will be very much relevant in your case study. So whatever the vocabulary that you are developing here by writing this answer or choosing to study through this video, make sure that it will definitely help you in your ethics case studies, because a lot of case studies are asked from this probity in governance paragraph of the syllabus. So go back to the syllabus, read that paragraph again, and you will understand that where are all the case studies coming from and how this vocabulary is helpful for you. The other one is rampant corruption. Corruption is you know, the biggest hurdle, because sometimes your seniors are not supportive, they are into corrupt practices, or sometimes your juniors or colleagues are into corrupt practices. Relationship management, you know, when you have to work in the same organization, when you are into a government job and you have to work under the blanket of the same political parties or political leaders. So how does that, where does that relationship management go? When you have to work with the same people, you have to work under the same people, you will not have good relations if you go against them, if you are acting even in utmost ethical uprightness. Even then, if your decisions are against them or are not in consonance with their values, which could be a negative value system, then your relationships will suffer with them. So relationship management within the organization and also outside the organization, which includes private parties, political organizations and things like that. The next one is economic conditions. Sometimes what happens that not even at the civil servants level, for example, there is a normal government servant, or you know, somebody who's into a permanent government aided job. So what happens is economic conditions of many Indian families are not good. In fact, most Indian families are not good. We know what are the poverty statistics, how many people are there in the middle class range. So there is always this economic problem or a problem of money. So everybody in this, like, everybody wants to multiply their money or does have some economic or financial problems in his own personal life. So many of the times these economic benefits are given to the person to act in a certain way, given to the person as benefits to act in a certain way. So economic condition of individual could be a big hurdle, and it is one of the biggest hurdles many times. And growth of materialism. Even if financial problem is not there, growth of materialism due to globalization, due to capitalism is so high that there is no end to the needs and wants of people. People want to build more and build better and have bigger and bigger things in their kitty. So that is another issue. The 12th one is work culture. If the work culture is not motivating enough, if it is just, you know, about dealing with papers, and if you want to launch any new initiative, for example a new software in an office which would reduce the, you know, there are so many civil servants who have a background of engineering. So many of these people come out with innovative ideas. For example, a software engineer might come out with a new software to help reduce the amount of paper burden or the things that are done on paper and pen and decisions getting delayed. So he might try to come out with that idea for his own for his own office, but that doesn't get approved by the seniors. That is not a part of work culture of that organization, and people fear and people lose motivation. In fact, people who came out with this idea of developing a new software, they also lose motivation by trying again and again over a period of time. The next one is delayed decision making. So this is also indirectly a part of work culture of your office and of the other offices that people are dealing with. So next one is political will. Any innovation has to be supported by the political leaders, and what are the levels of probity in an individual and in an organization also depend on the political will of that area of that organization. So tampering or loss of records. So many times, you know, buildings go on fire. There are accidents in the financial departments of so many government buildings, we see news so many times that the previous night this building caught fire, and all the records which were very secretive or very important records have now been burnt, or have come under this catch of fire. So why does that happen? Many a times many important records are not even found because everything is on paper. So tampering or loss of records happens a lot. Transparency issues, papers aren't found. This is, you can club these 2 points. Disintegration of ethics in society. See, this is a feedback effect. If the people at the higher rungs of administration are not ethical or not acting out of probity, people approaching them will see this. They will know that this is how work is done, so they will try to have that power. They'll try to inculcate that power in their own family, on their individual level, in their children, or things like that. So disintegration of ethics in society takes place, and these 2 people, the people in power and the general public, they drive each other's ethics. It's a feedback circuit that is there between both of them. So disintegration of ethics in society, it is also a reason for, it is also a challenge in like working with probity for many of the officers, and it is also a result of like lack of probity in the society. Criminalization of politics, criminalization of governance, and justice delivery mechanism is slow. What if an officer has been put under an allegation of a false case in the court? Many of the times passports are taken, or many of the benefits are deprived to such officers against whom cases are pending in courts. So, and justice delivery system is so slow that years may pass, like sometimes decades may pass, but the result might not come. The image of the officer gets tampered, and the stress level that comes in the life of that particular officer or in his family is so high that most people avoid innovating, or they avoid acting too much out of probity or having that ethical uprightness in their lives. So these were the broad challenges that we discussed about probity in governance. This is a very beautiful quote that we found, that recognized probity is the surest of all oaths. So there is oath that all civil servants take, all public servants take before entering into office, but recognized probity is the surest of all oaths. So this is a very beautiful one. You can use this in your answers. Download the PDF of this presentation from the link in the description below, and see all the diagrams and the codes that we mentioned here for yourself later. Here we have a way forward. See, in 150 words answers, many times a conclusion conclusion is not possible, or a conclusion is not required. Why? Because 150 words answers will not be philosophical ones, like for example for all the other GS papers. In ethics they would be like philosophical ones, but what conclusion do you give? So if you can, for any of the answers, especially from the dynamics part of the syllabus, and ethics is dynamic part of the syllabus, so make sure that you can give a way forward, because conclusions have to be positive and they should be reflecting your positive side to the examiner, that you have solutions in your own life. So if you can club your conclusions and way forward, nothing better than that. So here, what is the way forward for having probity in life, probity in public life? First, we'll talk about, you can write about behavioral change, you can talk about code of conduct, code of ethics, to which people can get back to in times of crisis, and this should also be checked with time. Information, a lot of information should be made accessible to the common public. Many states, even till date, they declared their results in sealed papers. Many of the times marks are not revealed for the posts that they are hiring on, and there are other processes which are carried out only in sealed envelopes. The information is not available to the public. So how can we expect transparency, and how can we ensure probity in governance, or probity from the side of civil servants? So information must be made accessible through the websites. People should not be having to approach the offices directly. It should be made available on the internet. Establishment of independent anti-corruption agency. Citizens advisory boards to incorporate ideas of common public in imparting governance. Grievance redressal mechanisms, as we discussed earlier. Social audit. Social audit is a part of environmental impact assessment also. If you go to the previous lectures of the series, we talked about environmental impact assessment and the part of social audit in detail there. So social audit is something very innovative that has evolved with time. It happens in developed countries a lot. In India it happens at many places, while at most of the places it is either delayed, denied to people, or the actual people who would be affected by any decisions are not taken into consideration. Their consent is not taken, or the time that is there for social audit, for example 15 days, that notice doesn't pass to the public in that time frame. So social audit is very important for launching of any schemes, for for launching any new policies or any new projects. So research a little bit about the social audit and use it in your answers, that what are the problems with social audit system in India and how can we develop it further to enhance the efficiency of administration. So Meghalaya came out with a law which mandated social audit for many of the projects. Read about that, and any current affairs data that you can add from your side in this probity part of the question, that would be good. As we always say, that ethics is about using your own creativity, using your own learnings from life in your answers. So be confident about whatever you are writing in ethics. Just use the right ethical vocabulary, the vocabulary that we discuss here for the paper, and make sure that your answer is organized, and just embellish your answers, give it a good structure, present it very well, write neatly, use diagrams, flow charts. You'll definitely get good marks in ethics if you follow this approach. So this is the email ID you have to send your answers to. Download the PDF for this presentation from the link in the description below, and keep working hard, stay tuned. See you with another discussion tomorrow. Do share your answers with us.